Welcome to Market Buzz. I'm Greg Schnell, the Canadian technician and host of the Market Buzz. Each show we do a deep dive into different industries using weekly charts to see what is happening on a long timeline. Please follow me on Twitter at SchnellInvestor, and you can also find my blogs on ospreystrategic.org as well as stockcharts.com. So, on Tuesday we saw the metals surge, and I want to talk specifically about that because at the end of June I was writing about it in the Stock Charts Chart Watchers newsletter, and what we were talking about was the fact that things are all set up for industrials, materials, and energy to move higher in the second half of the year, and we need to be ready for that and get turned on. So what I want to highlight today is just kind of some of the methods that we're using inside Osprey Strategic, and I'll actually take you inside the website and show you what we're going to do. So a little bit about the current market, a peek inside the Osprey Strategic website, and I want to talk about copper stocks and how we're going to get there. Okay, so let's head over here, and I'm just going to open a new window and grab this and just go to the SPY, and I'm going to grab the QQQ. And of course, these things just keep working their way up into the top right-hand corner. I mean, we're a little bit off. We've got Google and Microsoft have reported, Alphabet and Microsoft had reported last night, and looks pretty good, so we'll probably push up a little bit more. When we look at the charts, it's bottom left to top right, so still very bullish, and that's what our newsletter keeps talking about. My Schnell Strength Indexes continue to stay high. Starting to watch for some levels of deterioration that we're starting to see, but I don't have anything breaking down yet. Continue to watch, though, to make sure that protect the profits that we've made over the first part of the year. So let's get into what we try to show on Osprey Strategic, and hopefully it will help you make a little bit of money. But this is the main website, and obviously if you scroll down here, you can work through everything we've got going on. But what I wanted to talk specifically about is under this free tools, articles, and videos. I've got this free tools page here, and this was my article for use these indicators to help with exits, and try to explain how I like to look at the market and the things that I look for to see changes. So here is the second half Super Bowl, equity Super Bowl that I referred to. That was the article I originally talked about. And then the US dollar was rolling down. And so as the US dollar starts to fall, we want to start getting warmed up for commodities. But the big idea here is we're watching to see what's going on, and this article here, bond prices are breaking out, talks about the rest of the world starting to lift and take off, and if that was going to happen, this would be very bullish for the commodities. And so rather than get in and open all of these charts or these articles here, what I'd like to present to you is, this is under free tools on Osprey Strategic, and you're more than welcome to go there at any time. And if you'd like our newsletter, you can just click on the bottom of those articles and sign up for that. So over here under gold members, you can see all the different things we have set up. And one of the things I'm going to talk about today is this Osprey opportunities page. And we're going to get into that and show you how we would use that page to try and help us with what's going on in the market right now. So each week I do an article, right? And as the article comes out, this is the actual weekly newsletter that's from this Gold Members tab here, the weekly newsletter. And in there, it's a summary of what I'm thinking about. This is just a highlight of the first page of the actual newsletters, and it gives people a chance to, if you don't have time to read the whole thing, what's Greg focused on, and And again, quite excited about oil and gas commodities, and we're expecting more highs in commodities. Second half looks extremely bullish as this rally broadens out. And I like to remind investors that commodity-related names can rally really fast. Now, that's a very brief, that's the one page. And then here's the actual newsletter, and you can download this newsletter and save it right onto your computer and read it any way you'd like to. But down here is an article I wrote. This is the indicators to help with exits, and then my Market Buzz video of the week, and then the Osprey Strategic Weekly Update, former highs. So you're always welcome to go and grab all of this as a member and try to look through it. It probably give you more than enough information that you would like to look through. So this is the newsletter itself. And I'm just going to scroll up to the top. And what I want to talk about here is in the newsletter, again, so you get to the first page summary and what's going on here. My overall commentary about the markets. And again, I have some important unique charts in this newsletter from page 13 to 18. Some of the charts in this suggest that we are near big extremes, like prior extremes might include April 1st of 2022, August 19th, November 25th, and January 13th. And if we just quickly scroll through a few charts, here's my Schnell Strength Index. But if you look at those dates that I was talking about, there was one date right in here in early April, in August, and in November 22 and January 23. So those are, again, right up here. So we're sitting at an interesting inflection point for the overall market, and I want to be at least aware of the potential for the market to pull back. The one thing that I do think is going on here is I do think materials and energy are going to go on a rally here for a while, especially if the global economy picks up or needs more of those things for the third and fourth quarter. I think that's quite an opportunity. So with that, anyway, I'm not going to go through the whole newsletter with you, but the idea here is to just maybe here's some of the charts that I thought are pretty interesting. So going back to January 3rd, 2020, we haven't had this many industries near the high of the quarter set up in 3 years or 3.5 years of time frame here. We've only had two periods where that's happened, and one was after the vaccines, and the other was the SPAC top in 2021. And again, what we want to focus on is just being aware of where we are in the market environment, and just needless to say, it's been quite a run, and we're happy to have those types of runs, but we're getting to one of the stretch points. So this was one of the charts that I pointed out. Now, again, let's get down here into, so here's commodities, and what I talk about each week. So I like to cover off all of the parts of the market, not just technology or software or something like that. I know there's a lot of people that do that. Trying to provide something different here. So I'm focused on equities in general, commodities, currencies, the bond market, and a little bit of crypto. The whole goal here is to try and see what we call intermarket analysis. When everything starts to shift, you want to be aware of it. So we've recently had a big change in the dollar. We're kind of expecting the bond market to, or the Fed to kind of finish somewhere around here. So we want to start looking for the other asset classes to change, like equities and commodities and currencies, and just see what's going on. So we've already seen the currency change where the dollar is starting to really break down. And in the commodities, what we're starting to see, I had a trend line laying in here, and it was starting to, obviously not become as relevant as we broke out once and failed, and then broke out and kind of pulled back. Now, we didn't really fail, but it's interesting, we always came back to this Ukraine level. And I thought this was quite amazing that we would keep coming back to that level for commodities. But this week we actually saw a breakout. And again, my main point is if we're going to start with a new bull run of global economic expansion, or as the dollar weakens, these other economies can lift. This is a nice place to get on board. So anyway, oil closes above the 10-week moving average. So I've been talking about it, how we're basing and we just can't go lower. You might have seen my tweets on Twitter. I'm not sure if we call it that now anymore. But the tweet I put out around the end of June was just that, we were at $1.30, $130 a barrel for oil. We've come all the way back to 65. That's a 50% off. We haven't been able to push lower. To me, it looks like oil's ready to go higher. And so covering off just different charts about oil and the breakout in it. And again, here's my long-term PPO trend line. I like when that breaks. So the exploration and production ETF is starting to turn up. And you'll see a few charts coming up within the Osprey opportunities that I've set up for metals where this is just starting to happen as well. Now, these small moves really can start to turn a lot and make a lot of money for you when you get early in the move, and that's the whole goal here. You don't want to wait for oil to go back above $130 before you get involved. You kind of want to get involved when it's at 65 and starting to move higher. So here we are, pushing up from 4 weeks, and this is working its way up. And again, my energy charts, I've got a few different ways to look at it, but oil field services broke its downtrend in May. Exploration and production companies broke it in June. And in XLE here, we've been trying to push up. Really, we made our lows. There was a low back here in March, but really the low in May was kind of the base, and we kept trying to cycle higher out of there. Our bullish percent index is pushed up. Almost 80% of the energy stocks are bullish, and we're waiting for crude to break out. Now that's happening this week. So pretty good look at what we're doing. And here's software. And again, software has been performing well. It's kind of up against a support and resistance line. And I don't really like that this purple area chart is starting to break the uptrend. It's not always a problem, but it's a good place to at least be careful and start to understand that if software starts to underperform the S&P 500, that's what this purple area chart would tell us, and that's probably typically when they start to pull back. So in November of 2021, this was one of the first signs to trigger pretty much right at the top, telling us that all of a sudden software is underperforming the indexes, and sure enough, that led to almost a year-long decline. So that's one of the important ones for me. There's I've got a whole bunch of charts in the newsletter, obviously, but here's artificial intelligence, and it's still being supported. We're still above our relative strength line here, and so we want to just watch and see if this can continue to push higher. Semiconductors doing pretty well. The scooter ranking is nice and strong, but we haven't really done much in 8 weeks, and I know NVIDIA was having another strong start this week. But what we're watching for here is the PPO trend line is starting to roll over at a really high level. That doesn't mean it's going to fail. It just might mean we don't make any money for a little bit as it consolidates sideways and tries to just work out I'll call it the euphoria, and maybe it comes back to this trend line and takes back off again. So here's banks, but I'll get onto the metals because that's really what I want to talk about today. So here's gold. The gold chart paused after breaking out. The PPO trend is tilted down. We would like to see gold surge this week after this pause. Now, I'm recording this on Tuesday night, and the Fed is meeting on Wednesday. I'm expecting the gold stocks to start performing here, and if I'm wrong, I can be out relatively quickly, but if I'm right, I would expect this to be quite a sharp move higher. And here's the gold miners, and again, they broke the trend 2 weeks ago, so they had a really strong uptrend, and then they just paused sideways. And it's not uncommon for us to see a strong move up, and then it pauses, and then it takes off again. You look on many, many charts, you get a strong move up, and you get a pause. And it's those pauses that give us an opportunity to evaluate the position, decide if we want to get on board. But one of the things I like here, again, and you can read all my header up there, but I was looking for a bounce on the PPO right here, and this is a very good place if we start to see a bounce right here. It's very, very bullish. So what happens is we had a negative market. We come up, when we get above zero, we pull back, and then we start to take off to the upside. And on that takeoff to the upside, if you can get involved early enough, sure enough, you can make a little bit of money, and hopefully from here, a 30 to a 40 or a 30 to a 45 move would be a 50% move over the next, whatever, few months or half a year. So I pretty much focus, as you go through the newsletter, I'm trying to identify areas that I think are opportunities. So here's copper. And what I wrote was copper closed back below the 40-week MA, which is this gray line here in the middle. And you can always check the legend over here on the left. But it still looks ready to test the downtrend line going back to March 2022. So from here, we've had this gentle pullback. And again, we've just wandered sideways. But everything, again, going back to my newsletter articles or my articles on Chart Watchers and articles on Osprey Strategic and the changes in the currency, everything is setting up here for materials and energy to do okay. So again, I will say that if copper can find support and turn the PPO up right around zero, that is a great technical setup. So again, I think that's what's happened literally today. And so when we click on this article, just grab this and bring it over, maybe. It's not going to let me go over here and just bring it to a new page. But what you see here is copper is trying to push up. Just make sure, yeah, July 25th. So we had the pullback yesterday, and now we're trying to break out to the upside. Now, again, one day doesn't make, this might end up at the bottom of the bar by the end of the week. But what we're looking for is this exact setup, and we've been talking about it for a while. And it's all starting to formulate. But when we get that opportunity, we really need to make sure we're in a position to do that. So again, here's our PPO where we want to see it turn up right around zero here. This would be very strong, and any sort of move higher would kind of get us going. So here we are on the actual chart, and we're getting a PPO positive cross this week. It's only Tuesday when I'm recording this, and it could, should take off to the upside. So this is a really bullish thing. And again, we had this a few weeks ago in XOP, and that was the really nice place to get on board. You can see back here in October of 2022, it was a really nice place to get on board for a move from whatever 340 to 430. It's those kinds of moves that we can make some real money on. So anyway, I like the technical setup here. And I don't have any better answer than everybody else. I try to line up everything and see when the opportunity is going to set up for markets to move higher, and hopefully, as you look through this, you'll find some ideas. But the goal here is not to is to be ready for when things are happening. And as I said in the newsletter, I'm getting some indications that are saying market should start rolling over here on the S&P 500 and the NASDAQ 100. Doesn't have to, but again, a lot of my charts are starting to indicate that, but we're not getting the same indications on the materials charts and on the energy charts. So it's one of the reasons that I've been more positive on those areas recently, as I'm starting to see the other areas of the market stretched. Now, in my materials, what we need to do here, we've got all of these charts listed, and again, so this is gold monthly, and you can just see if gold started to turn up here, this would be a fabulous breakout. We've already got the PPO going up here. So if gold starts to ramp up much like it did from 2019 to 2020, that's a very bullish push, and we seem to be sitting ready for that. So that's the kind of thing I'm looking for. Here's the materials sector fund, and it's just breaking out this week, literally. So starting to get the push. Now this is a chart going back to 2018, but you've got a beautiful 2-year consolidation structure. And, in this case, I don't know if we want to count from 35 to 85, but at least from 50 to 85 is let's call it a $30 push. And if you can get a $30 push out of here from 85 to 115, I don't know if it'll be this smooth, but the real thing we'd like to expect as you get these big base breakouts, and I don't know how many times we want to talk about a big base breakout, but let me just show you some ideas. Like if you take a Microsoft chart, and we're just going to go to a weekly, what you're looking for, let's just put up 20 years. And the idea, you can just see Microsoft was sitting here sideways, 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 sideways. And once it finally got going, so this was, 3-4 year period here from 2008 to 2011. And so you had the big run, then you had a 2-year consolidation, then it tried to get going. And once it started to go, it was a big, beautiful ride. Now, I don't ever think commodities behave the same, but they have the ability to move just as fast for periods of time. And so if we can catch these as they're starting to break out of this big giant consolidation, that's what Microsoft did as an example, and that's the kind of charts we want to look for. So here's steel doing the same thing, breaking out to new 2-year highs. That chart just looks beautiful, and this is literally Tuesday afternoon or Tuesday evening. Lithium is trying to break out of the downtrend right now. So again, all of these are different parts of the materials business. And I'm going to scroll down here and try and move a little bit quicker. I want to get down to the copper charts, but when we get into these, I'm trying to point out different chart structures that are working. And here's a great example, Sigma Lithium. Like you can draw a downtrend across all of these PPOs on this daily. And if that was to start to revert higher, I'd be really excited to get back on board a chart like that. Here's the copper miners. They're up 5% so far this week. Again, you can just see that horizontal picture, and if we can get a start of a breakout going, that would be really, really nice. Here's uranium. You've got the same thing where you've got, just struggling at resistance here on the momentum indicator. We're on this downsloping trend line, and if this can start to turn higher, that's going to be very, very bullish. And again, another 2-year consolidation in metals and mining. Now, I'm going to try and scroll down to the number 420, so just close your eyes here as we try to scroll a little bit quicker. And the reason I'm doing that is I've sorted this based on different industry groups, and so in here, this is the containers and packaging, and I've got a different one for Ivanhoe Electric here, general mining. But here's Teck Resources, so we're starting to get into some of the different mines. And Teck Resources has a big commodity mine, or a copper mine, just opening in South America. And so it's been grinding sideways for about a year. The story is beautiful, and how come this chart can't break out? Well, perhaps it's finally going to do that. So it's starting to look like it breaks this downtrend. And on our Osprey opportunities and our daily setups that we sent out, I had a fund manager who recently subscribed to the website, and he just said, Greg, the one thing I find is your setups are unbelievably helpful for us, and then we take your setups and we go back and do our macro work on them, and if we like it, then we get involved. But we're really impressed with the quality of your setups, and I want to give a shout out to Dwight, who works with me, who takes the time to build all these charts and post them with me. So here's Hudbay Minerals, and this one's up 8% on Tuesday. The chart literally been consolidating sideways. You can see we started to break the downtrend roughly 2 weeks ago, and off we go. Again, there's that PPO trend line breaking, and you start to get these nice thrusts out of here. So here's Labrador Iron Ore, and again, this is Canadian, but there's both Canadian and US in here. You'll see that in a second. But this has been underperforming the S&P 500. We'd really like to start to see it outperform. And again, usually during periods of outperformance is where you make the real money, when these charts start to turn up. So wouldn't take much for this to get to 3 or 4 month highs here and get on the way. Here's Russell Metals, a steel company. This one's perking up. First Quantum Minerals, this one's involved in metal and mining, and they're down in Panama. They have I think it's Panama or Colombia. Anyway, here it is for a year and a half that they've been sitting in this zone, 2 years, and it's just starting to break out this week. What's wrong with that? So when we get into these charts here, Ivanhoe Mines, again, this is a 2-year consolidation pattern just starting to break out this week. You've got the PPO trend line drawn down here, or we could draw it, off of here. I want it to be at least 4 months when I draw them, and then off it heads up to the upside, and that's very, very bullish for us. So this is a monthly chart. Again, big consolidation zone, and we start to break out. You can see back here when we had that same sort of thing and it started to break out. That was a move from, call it $4 to 13 in about 2 years. That's a pretty solid move higher. So here's Lundin Mining, and again breaking out. Next Gen Energy, again, metals mining starting to just perk above the downtrend line. Amerigo Resources, trying to find some US ones here. Here's Materion Corp, consolidating sideways, been trending higher lows all the way through here. Looks like it's ready to pop higher to me. Now, Southern Copper, this chart just broke out to new highs. Beautiful move today, up 6.6%. so far this week. And again, what you're looking for, you had this big downtrend, you rallied up to a high, you've basically had your pullback 3 or 4 months, and now it looks like it wants to start to fire up again. That's just a beautiful chart. There's hard not to like it, and this is the monthly chart of it. You can see again, here's a big beautiful base, $30 went to $45 in 6 or 9 months. Very nice. Now all these little red candles will make us think all the way along, but the bottom line is you're getting a nice solid push to higher ground here, and we're just breaking out literally as we speak. Piedmont Lithium, again, downtrend line here. Freeport McMoran, 2.5 year consolidation, looks like a left shoulder ahead and a right shoulder. The difference between 24 and 46 is roughly $22, or if you did 24 to 50 is, call it $25. So from here, you're looking for a move of about $20 to $25. So that give you 66 to 71 over the same sort of period. So maybe over an 18-month period, you could start to see a move of 50% or more. It doesn't have to take that long, but it's a good idea to just, try to figure out how much of a move you would have. And usually what we do is we take the neckline, that's what we call it, where all these tops are constructed. You go down to the low and you measure this distance, so real rough, $20. And then you go to that neckline and add the $20 above, and that would give you your upside target. So here's Sigma Lithium, and again, this thing has just been pushing up against this top area. PPO is still pointed down, but if this is about to start to turn up here, that would be pretty nice. And you can see it IPO'd back here around $8, made it to 43. I think there's a new facility coming on. Anyway, let the stock continue to consolidate. If it wants to start to turn higher, that would be a great breakout. Cameco's just starting to get going here. It's not a copper miner, it's a uranium miner. But again, here's another metals chart starting to move. Lithium Americas, I've been waiting for this chart to start to go. My PPO trend line has broken, but the chart hasn't started to turn up yet. So just watching here. And if all of a sudden this just starts to get a little bit of a hook here, especially around this high volume area on this chart, it looks like a pretty good place to get interested. Some other names in here, like the non-ferrous metals, in this case silver, been downtrending, trying to hold right around this $13 level, which was the previous breakout. And again, we'd look for that same sort of thing. Draw your trend line down here, and when it finally gets going, we'd like to be on board with that. Energy fuels, same sort of idea, big downtrend. All of these charts look set up to break higher, and if I stopped in the steel section, we'd see lots of good action, lots of industrial chemicals, we call it, but lithium can be in the chemicals camp. So anyway, when I look through here, I see lots of nice charts that are just starting to turn up, and hopefully, again, going back to what we do at Osprey Strategic, we've been writing about it in the articles and videos. We've been writing about it in the newsletters. We've set up an Osprey opportunity section just specifically for materials for people to help find them. And again, what we're trying to do here on these is when you go in, we've got gold and artificial intelligence and energy crisis, and all of these charts are all set up with patterns that look like they're ready to turn higher. So again, hopefully, if there's anything of interest there for you, you can try everything we do at Osprey Strategic for just $7 for the first month. And again, I'm not trying to sell you on the plan. It's hopefully this can help you make some real money in the markets and understand, again, the big picture. So if all of a sudden we rotate out of tech and into materials, we can do that for a while, and when the rotation back to tech comes, we'll be ready for that. So with that, thank you for taking the time to join me in Market Buzz. Market Buzz is now on the Stock Charts TV YouTube page, and again, I put a link to it in my newsletter every week. But with that, thank you. Have a good week. Bye bye.